Good evening. Good evening. Wow, okay. I will now call the May 14th, 2024 meeting of the being Board of Directors to order. I would like to introduce our participants this evening. My immediate left, Director Amy Tatum, Keena Chadwick, Cameron Fisher, and Sherry Olson. And to my immediate right, Superintendent Steve Cook, Deputy Superintendent Laura Norquist, and Board Chair Janet Bojanowski. Clerk, excuse me. Ooh, my bad. I know. I'm gonna get there. I am Marcus LeGrand, Chair of the Board. I also have Liam Williams from Mountain View High School joining us from the Student Voice Council. Welcome. We have Aaron Trimble and Hannah Westfall joining us for ASL interpretation. As a speaker, Spanish interpretation of a meeting will be provided on the BLS School Board YouTube page. In order to ensure the safety and ability for the board to focus on its business, we ask that all the audience adhere to the board meeting attendance expectations. This includes being seated, holding signs on the chin level. If there are any available chairs, individuals might wait in the lobby until one is available. Please, at this time, stand, remove your hats, and join me in for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now move to agenda item number 3, review of the agenda. Dr. Cook, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Fellow board members, are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing no request for any changes, we will proceed with the agenda as noted. I will now turn it over to Dr. Cook for our district recognitions.
Thank you, Chair LeGrand. Today, it is my great honor to give this award to 10 graduating seniors who joined our vision to give Ben Lapine students a voice. In February of 2023, Student Voice Council was formed, a group of 20 students representing our 7 high schools. Student Voice Council members work with their peers to collect and share ideas about policies with district leaders and our board of directors. You've seen them at our board meetings. Liam's sitting right over there. Everybody wave to Liam. They report on what work they've done, the issues that they are meaningful to students, and engaging with our board on important district business. I'm very proud to name these graduating seniors our next generation of leaders as our champion of students for the month of May. So let's give them a round of applause to start with. All right, we have gifts for each one of them too. So I see many of them out there. I don't know if they're all here or not. So when I call your name, come on up and you're gonna get a picture taken and get a gift from us. So let's start. Wes McGovern. Is Wes here? Okay, let's send Wes's gift to it. Wes graduates from Summit High School next month, and he's a familiar face in this room. His first speech was given here when he was in the 3rd grade. This fall, he's attending Fordham College at Lincoln Center in Manhattan, where he plans to major in political science. Let's give Wes a round of applause. Abby Wydra. Okay, same with Abby. Abby is part of the first graduating class at Caldera High School. She will attend the University of Redlands in California this fall. Abby said, "My favorite part of being on the Student Voice Council was meeting new people from different schools and working with them to make a difference in our schools and community." Let's give Abby a warm welcome. All right, I see this one back there. Can Gabe Miller come on up? Gabe, thank you. And, I don't want to drop it. Come on over. Gabe's shoes will be very hard to fill at Ben Tech Academy once he graduates on June 10th. He is attending George Fox University in the fall. He will be studying psychology and working towards his master's in counseling. Let's give Gabe a nice round of applause. Hold on, Gabe. You gotta stay up. Yeah. We want your. Oh, Wes, come on up. We got Wes. We'll do Wes again. Okay, I'm going to just read it again. We just missed it. It's all right. Wes graduates from Summit High School next month, and he's a familiar face in this room. You guys have to laugh at this part again, please. His first speech was given here when he was in the 3rd grade. This fall, he's attending Fordham College Lincoln Center in Manhattan, where he will be majoring in political science. Let's welcome Wes.
Thank you.
Stay put. Stay put. Stay put. Wes. Gotta get a photo. All right, Stevie Irvine. Soon. We'll skip Stevie then. I saw this one too. Eleni Adams. There she is. Super cool. Bag of candy. I gotta shake your hand. Eleni leaves Summit High School for the University of St. Andrews in Scotland to study international relations. She said, learning about shared experiences in Student Voice Council made me feel deeply connected within our district and community of students. Let's give her a round of applause. Okay, Bella Kalfas is not here, but Bella graduates from Ben Senior High on June 6th. She's attending the University of Toronto to study materials engineering. Bella joined us at Oregon School Boards Association annual convention in Portland last November. She said, I love the opportunity to speak about leadership and environmental advocacy and learn from student leaders from all around the state. Let's give her a round of applause. Stevie just arrived. Come on up, Stevie Irvine. Stevie's part of Student Voice Council. Her favorite part has been meeting people from other schools. Stevie graduates from Realms High School on June 11th and heads to Rose Hulman, did I say that right? Holman Institute of Technology in Terre Haute, Indiana to study biomedical engineering. Let's give her a round of applause. All right, Liam, come on over. Liam Williams next. Liam will graduate from Mountain View High School on June 8th. Then he heads over the Cascades to study finance at Oregon State University. Let's give Liam a round of applause. Next is Honey Walk. Come on up, honey. Honey will be joining Liam on the graduation stage at Mountain View High School. She's also heading to the West Side to major in art at the University of Oregon. She said, my favorite part of Student Voice Council was being able to meet so many different people with such a passion for making change in schools. Let's give her a round of applause. You're faster than me. All right, now let's welcome Abby Wydra. Come on up, Web. Absolutely. Shake your hand. Good job. Abby Wydra is part of the first graduating class at Caldera High School. She will be attending the University of Redlands in California this fall. Abby said, my favorite part of being in the Student Voice Council was meeting new people from different schools and working with them to make a difference in our community. Round of applause. We have two more seniors I just want to recognize that could not make it tonight. Colin McCracken graduates from Benn Senior High School and also heads to the University of Oregon to study business. His Student Voice Council gave him direct access to school board members to discuss ideas about how things could work better in schools. Let's please recognize Colin. Also was absent tonight, couldn't make it, is Layla White, who will walk across the stage for her diploma from Lapine High School on June 7th. Her plans for the fall are to attend Lane Community College in Eugene and work toward becoming a teacher. So let's recognize Layla. Okay, anybody who wants a quick photo op, now's your chance to jump on up here and get a photo of all these fine folks. And let's make sure our communication teams get a picture for the Instagram feed. It's really important. One more round of applause for all of our Student Voice Council members. Thank you all. And that's it for student recognitions.
And now I will turn it to our Student Voice Council for their report.
Hello, my name is Liam Williams. Thank you for this opportunity to address the board. I'm a senior at Mountain View High School. I play football and wrestle, and I'm also part of the Stand By Me Club, which raises money for life skills athletic teams. I want to express my gratitude for the champion of student recognition for the senior members of the Student Voice Council. It has been an honor to be part of this new initiative and hope to see a positive impact from the work of the SVC. As a leaving MVHS student, I want to address two challenges from my perspective as a student at MVHS. My final project in my civil discourse class was about the lack of locking doors and stalls without doors in the restrooms. Restroom stalls should have a locking door for security, privacy, and the dignity of students. There's also a door missing on a stall, and around 60% of the stall doors do not lock. This is not enough bathrooms for students during certain times of the day. I hope that next council can dive into the restroom challenges at MVHS and accessibility in restrooms for all students at all schools. I'd also like to see updates with how parking violations are managed. Currently, parking passes are free at Mountain View High School, but if you do not have one, you are booted and fined $25. I think this is unfair, as the announcements of it, which is my primary focus on this, what I want to change, came in the middle of a Canvas announcement. I'd just like to see the expansion of how important information can be shown to the students. It's not necessarily about parking, although I do believe it's unfair. It's more, how do we give students these informations and not bury them in other stuff? Exciting SVC news. Tomorrow, two members of this council, Bella and Wes, will be joining a statewide meeting of students with Dr. Williams from the Oregon Department of Education to share ideas and perspectives statewide about student experiences in Oregon schools. Our representatives will have the opportunity to share ideas about shifting the Oregon school experience throughout the state. They attend a Central Oregon meeting and were invited to this larger statewide gathering. The students will have a short report post-meeting for the next SVC and for the board. As I leave the district and SVC, I know that this council will be in good hands and continue to bring student voice and our school experiences to the board and cabinet. There are 18 new members and 4 returning to expand this council to 22 members, with room for some incoming freshman representatives. The new council members will be joining board meetings starting in September. I'm happy to have been one of the founding members and look forward to seeing it inspire other districts to include the same. Thank you for the opportunity and the recognition.
Thank you, Liam, for the report. Are there any questions from the directors at all, or superintendent, or anyone?
I have a question. Thank you so much for this information. I'm curious, and maybe I missed this in your comments, suggestions besides just the one-time Canvas notification with regard to parking challenges. What would be some other ways that you think increasing education or awareness on some of these types of things?
I think a big thing would be notifying the parents, because even for a lot of them, for a lot of the students, that the parents kind of do have to be the ones who pay it. So I think notifying the parents, make sure like they ask them to make sure their kids also get the pass. It's not a big issue. I know it's not that, but it's more alerting if there is something big, especially that can fine a student, especially if they're of a lower income household, about something so small like that, they should tell the parents.
Well, and Liam, is there any warning process in place? Like the first time it happens, it's a warning, second time you get a fine?
There's no warning. It's straight up, your car gets booted and you have to go to the office.
Liam, I just, since you're representing the whole group tonight, but some of you are still in the audience, I just want to thank you all so much for making this a really active and important part of our meetings. It has been just great to have your input and to have your questions, and we are looking forward to next year with some new members and breaking them in casually. Thank you.
And Liam, thank you again for the report. I appreciate it very, very much. I will see Dr. Williams on tomorrow, actually. So I'll definitely make sure I reemphasize what you all want as well, so it can make sure your voices are continually being heard as well. Okay, thank you very much. The Board of Directors values communication from students, families, staff, and community members as it helps to guide the work of Ben Lapine Schools. Public comment is just one of those many avenues available to ensure this connection. Members of the public may always submit thoughts, questions, or concerns to the board via email or as well as in writing. Individual board members also make themselves available by phone, video, or in-person conversations. This said, I would like to remind everyone that public comment, while it is a meeting of the Board of Directors that takes place in public, this is not a meeting with the public. It is a meeting with the board to conduct district business. As such, the board will not respond to public comments made during tonight's meeting. Instead, issues will be recorded and referred to the appropriate person who will follow up. We will now open the public comments and hear from stakeholders on the topics in order they appear on the agenda. Our policy is typically to allow up to 2 minutes per speaker until the time cap has been reached for that agenda item. A timer is provided on the large screens that you see above, and our virtual attendees will ensure every speaker receives updated during the presentations on remaining time. If the speaker goes over time, it is the speaker's message is not adherent to what our policies, for examples being personally directed, abusive, discriminatory, repetitive, or off topic, I may ask the speaker to cease and terminate the speaker's privilege to address the board. At this time, we would like to hear from Haberly Price. And all you have to do is just hit the button and you can be able to talk, and try to pull it closer so you can talk, all right?
Okay, like that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, hello,
You turn it off, yeah.
sorry, I'm Georgia Boggs. Yeah,
Go ahead.
and I'm Aberly Price, in case it wasn't caught. So we both go to Pilot Butte Middle School and would like to speak to you about chronic school absenteeism in the Ben Lapine district.
So you may not know what chronic absenteeism is. It's technically defined as when a student misses 10% of the school year, which is usually around 18 days or just 2 days a month. When a student misses this much school or even less, it can cause a lot of significant problems for the student.
Yes, so that leads us to the next thing, where currently nationwide, school absenteeism rates are at 26%. Our district is at 40%. That's a huge difference.
So to look into some ways to solve this really serious problem, we researched some districts that had already come up with solutions. One of these was in Gervais, Oregon, which is like a small town in Marion County. and they were successfully able to reduce their rates of absenteeism from 40% down to 28%, and 70% of their students are regular attendees, which was up from the 53% before they implemented their plan. So our proposal is loosely based on the steps that they took.
So the first step in our proposal would be to bring more awareness on the issue. This could be including small pieces of information in school letters, handing out pamphlets on school event nights, or increasing wide district communication via apps such as Family Spotlight or something else.
The second step is to make sure and help students return to school. So steps for that include, making sure that schools are keeping track of absences for individual students and not just the whole school, so the schools actually know when students are becoming chronically absent. The next step is to make sure that the schools reach out to families and guardians of chronically absent students first. It's really important that parents and families know, like, the schools really do want students to come back to school. Another important step in this process is to make sure that communication between families and the schools are as easy as possible. Having that, like, 1 or 2 extra steps that make it just that much harder for families to communicate with the schools just makes it that much harder for students to come back to school. And finally, schools need to provide any basic needs to families that they might need, such as transportation, clothing, and food.
Okay, and then the last step in our plan is once the students are back in school, we need to keep them there. Steps to do this would be handing out attendance words at the end of the school year, some kind of recognition for, hey, you came to school, we congratulate you, thank you for coming, just a recognition that kids came to school. So we hope that you will make this a priority on your agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Clint Eckenberger. I don't want to make sure I said that correctly. And you can thank it. I know, I tried.
Thanks. That's going to be tough to follow that over there. Sorry. That was impressive. Thanks, girls. Okay. Hello. Thank you for having me. And let me have a chance to talk on behalf of the parents that are here with me. The reason I'm here is because we are concerned for the performing arts and in particular the theater programs that we have in a lot of our schools across the district. We all have students that go to Summit High School, and we're very involved in that program. I'm confident that most people here, including the board, believe that performing arts and theater programs in particular are a very important part of our school. We all know that these programs create safe spaces for so many kids that may not identify with any other activity that they're surrounded by. But I also know that the theater program that we have at Summit is an outstanding program, and it has an exceptional teacher, and her name is Laura Okamoto. And Laura naturally puts a tremendous amount of time and energy into her classroom activities, but those efforts are doubled by the countless hours that she spends outside the classroom, after school, and over the weekends. She is dedicated to her students, she mentors them and inspires them, and in turn, they accomplish things that they never thought they could. So just in fact, last month, Summit's fall production of Alice by Heart was recognized as one of the state's best performances in the Oregon's Thespian State Festival. They were selected to perform the entire show in front of thousands of other high school theater students, an honor given to only 3 schools across the state. This is the equivalent of any other state program going to their state finals and any other, like an athletic event. And after their last performance, the students presented Laura with a gift, and they said the following, and these are their words. You've taught us the importance of collaboration, of pushing boundaries, and of never settling for anything less than our very best. Your belief in our abilities has empowered us to soar to new heights, both on stage and off. Your impact reaches far beyond the stage, and your legacy will forever be etched in the hearts of everyone you've touched. Our kids not only feel like they belong in her theater program, but they thrive because of it. And now, this may be a little premature to have this conversation prior to the outcome of the levy, but the day after that we returned, or the kids returned from the state festival, Laura's being told that her program is now going to be cut. Now, it may only be a reduction of number of classes in that program, but when you're talking about cutting a teacher's salary after she has worked overtime to build an extraordinary program, most of which was unpaid and during her time off, we can't expect that same teacher to keep coming back for half of a full-time teacher's salary. Without Laura and many teachers like her, these
Thank
programs.
you. I've given you plenty of time. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank you.
it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Our next speaker will be, is it Ami Formica? Formica. Thank you. Thank you for that correction. I appreciate it very much. Yes.
Should I hold it? Yeah. I'm a former theater teacher, and I saw that production. It's amazing. I am Amy Formica, and this is Brooke Muse. We are both parents and the co-founders of Well Wired, a healthy tech advocacy group and family community in Bend. We are here tonight to express strong concern from hundreds of parents throughout Bend LaPine schools around the use of iPads, as well as the impact of phones on the learning environment. Through well-wired listening sessions, school talks, and parent surveys with nearly 1,000 respondents, we've heard many stories of distracting, concerning, and highly problematic use of phones and school-issued iPads, including kids playing video games, kids watching sports and movies in class, kids looking at pornography even as young as elementary school, kids filming fights, and kids getting cyberbullied. All of these things and much more are happening during school hours, during instruction, and on iPads that the district supplies and on kids' phones. This is wrong. Students from kindergarten to 12th grade receive individual iPads loaded with access to the internet, YouTube, and many apps with addictive and gamified features in a self-service menu. Parents are highly concerned that their children are spending too much time on screens at school, and that the use of iPads for reading, math, and other subjects is hindering the development of important skills such as handwriting, creativity, critical thinking, and person-to-person connection without research to back up the efficacy of this digital curriculum. Current research and data show a correlation between addictive tech use and poor mental health. The district must reduce screen time and prohibit access to harmful and inappropriate content. Schools must use tech intentionally and only as a tool that enhances learning, and we must teach students healthy tech habits with limits and boundaries. On behalf of Bend LaPine parents, we ask tonight for a thorough review of current tech use across all grades and a district-wide reset of iPad and phone policy starting next school year. Today, we had our first meeting with Superintendent Cook and his team where we shared our data and our tech policy proposals, and we look forward to more collaboration. Finally, we've printed these packets that contain over 300 comments from parents expressing their concerns and stories about tech use in Bend LaPine schools. We have a copy for each member of the board, and we hope you will take the time to read them. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next person is Autumn Marler. I think it's the same.
Hi, I am a parent of three and a therapist here in Bend, and I'm here to talk about technology and smartphones in schools. I recently read a book by Jonathan Haidt, and he talks about the massive increase in anxiety and depression from 2010 to 2020. It was 134% rise in depression and 106% rise in anxiety, and that really resonates with my experience as a therapist and as a parent. When my kids are now 17, 20, and 24, so we went from TVs to iPods, to flip phones, to smartphones, which at that point had no parental controls. And I remember sitting in my son's charter middle school where there was a strict no phone policy, and the kids were talking and laughing, and they went out to play ultimate frisbee. And the next year I was in my daughter's middle school, which had a looser policy because they were afraid of angering the parents or the kids. And she came home complaining that she was lonely. She said that no one wanted to talk and that everybody was looking at their phones. I mean, I think this is like a massive experiment that we've done, that we've been trying to serve, and it's time to like reboot because it's really not necessary, right? It is possible to pull the phones out of the schools, and it's not up to individual parents or individual teachers because it's too strong a technology. Like, it's too addictive. I think what's called for is collective action, where parents and teachers and administrators and you all can come together and say, this is what we want in our schools, and give kids like 8 hours a day, at least in elementary and middle, and then maybe grandfather it into high school, right? So that they can start to learn how to talk to each other, how to focus, and how to navigate this as adults, because it's not easy for us either, right? And their brains aren't ready for it. So I urge you to look at this issue and really open your minds to the possibility that it can be different. It really can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next person is going to be Sarah Claire. Where's Sarah? Out there. A star. She's here.
Can you hear me? Yeah. My name is Sarah Sear, and I have a first and fourth grader at schools in the district. And I'm echoing some of the comments that just were said, so I'll be brief, specifically about cell phone use in schools and technology in schools. I know that there is a silent, in a way, policy where cell phones are meant to be silent and put away in schools. And even with this policy, I think it's a great first start. But even with this policy, I'm constantly in conversation with teachers, administrators, and parents who are teaching in the middle and high school level about the continual struggle with cell phone usage throughout the school day, despite this policy. I can give one specific example a parent shared with me last week. She has a seventh grader at Pacific Crest, and that seventh grader was walking down the hallway holding hands with a friend during the school day. And another student, she found out later that afternoon that another student had taken a picture of that and during the school day had posted it to Snapchat. And it was this opportunity for cyberbullying during the school day. And there were comments about that person's gender and sexuality. And just to echo, I think that if we can give more supports to teachers and to administrators and students to have healthy boundaries around cell phone usage, I think we'll have a very good impact. I know there's a lot of tools like pouches and lockers that could be explored to help with this issue. So thank you for listening, and thank you for the work you do. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, we have Jenny Richardson.
Hello. I'm also echoing the last few speakers, but I think it's an important topic, so I'll keep going. My name is Jenny Richardson, and I am the proud parent of a Highland Magnet School student. I'm standing before you today to discuss the topic of student technology use in our schools, specifically iPad usage and internet usage in the classroom. As a classroom parent volunteer, I see firsthand the benefits of technology use, specifically iPad and internet usage in our classrooms. The educational apps utilized by students throughout the day allows for customized learning that would otherwise be difficult for teachers to accomplish due to many factors, including large class sizes and low levels of support staff. While technology used by our students in the classroom in many ways, without proper guidelines for usage, technology can start to be detrimental to our children's well-being. As a former big tech company employee, I've seen firsthand what the lack of guardrails around access to technology and the internet can do to children, from mental health issues to behavioral issues and more. It's my understanding that our district does not currently have a district-wide universal policy around student technology usage in our classrooms, and that usage varies by school and by grade level, as we've heard from others here tonight. It's my sincere hope that our district can work together with local thought leaders on this topic to establish a district-wide, detailed, and transparent technology in schools policy that can be frequently updated to keep up with the rapid pace of advances in technology. Ideally, this policy includes research-based guidelines for how and why technology is used, including specific app guidance and general internet access guidelines, including white and blacklisted websites and time spent guidelines. Research tells us that children who develop healthy habits around technology usage at an early age are less likely to suffer from mental health challenges as teenagers and adults. That's why I'm here today advocating for the district to prioritize the creation of such a policy to help keep our kids safe and healthy as they age. Thank you for your time and for everything you do for our students.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Next, the speaker will be Matt Fox.
There we go. Okay, thank you. I'll just get right to it. Dr. Martin Luther King said that in the end, we will not remember the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. This evening, I want to highlight what I see as a silence that needs addressing and something I'd like to bring to your attention. In the wake of the horrific attacks on October 7th, our district sent a letter to our community, and I want to share a quote. The violence is horrific and heartbreaking, and we condemn these acts of terrorism, hate, and intolerance by Hamas. It goes on and concludes. Know that our entire Pine school family is here to support our Jewish community now and always. First, I support these statements, period. I don't disagree with them. That is not why I'm here. I'm here in hope of making you aware of what I see as a need. The silence that I speak of is that we called out the violence and terrorism perpetrated by Hamas, but have yet to speak to the violence and terrorism perpetrated by the Israeli government. I recognize it could seem problematic to wade into a thorny international crisis, but since we decided to call out the attacks of October 7th, if we stay silent now, we are sending a message with our silence. Speaking to one and not the other is its own statement, and I'm concerned about the message this sends. I want to be abundantly clear that all forms of hate, bigotry, and violence need to be called out, and I want to be clear that acts of anti-Semitism are not acceptable. Violence in any form should be condemned, including Islamophobia. There's been a tendency in recent weeks to equate those supporting Palestinian people with being pro-Hamas and anti-Semitic. And I want to share some words from Vermont Senator Sanders, who spoke eloquently on just this issue. It is not anti-Semitic or pro-Hamas to point out that in almost 7 months, Netanyahu's extremist government has killed 35,000 Palestinians and wounded more than 77,000, 70% of whom are women and children. And to protest that or to point that out is not anti-Semitic, it's simply factual. It's not anti-Semitic to realize that his government has annihilated Gaza's healthcare system, its schools, and 12 of its universities, leaving hundreds of thousands of children with no opportunity for education. Furthermore, according to the United Nations, a child is killed or injured in the war every 10 minutes. More than 14,000 children have now lost their lives. As an institution of education, it's incumbent upon us, if we're going to call out acts of violence, that we do so in a way that shows we stand against all acts of violence. If it's true in the letter that was sent to staff that we remain resolute in our commitment to fostering an inclusive and caring school, then we need to be inclusive in our condemnation of acts of terrorism, and we need to stand up and say we care. If our district is going to call out acts of terrorism and violence, it should call out the Israeli government's horrific and continued acts of terrorism and violence against innocent citizens of Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it very much. Next is Elizabeth Olsel.
All right. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Oshel. I am a parent of a daughter in 6th grade at Pilot Butte and one starting kindergarten in Juniper in the fall. Thank you for listening to me tonight. I'm here to talk about iPads and technology in our schools. We all know, and we've heard tonight from others, how addicting screens and smartphones and games and apps are. And I want our schools to help our kids learn that iPads and phones can be helpful tools, but don't have to succumb to all of those other negative aspects of them. We know our kids' brains need real-life interaction, lots of free play outside, navigating social relationships, and doing work with pen and paper. I want the one iPad, one student policy to change. I think iPads should be used as a tool, maybe assigned to teachers per classroom for the teachers to deploy as they need in their own instructional time, as they deem necessary and appropriate. I think the current policy of giving each kid an iPad to take home to set up as their own, I think this detracts from learning and encourages unhealthy and distracting iPad use. I also want to know that there's a robust internet and social media safety curriculum for our kids. We've given them a powerful tool, and it's up to us to set the rules and boundaries to help them use it appropriately. I don't think what's happening now is working, and it's not what our kids need. I also want to see a healthy culture developed around smartphones and social media use, including, and this is maybe not a policy, but a culture in our schools, a culture of no smartphones until high school and no social media until age 16. Some of these ideas come from a book that's already surprisingly been referenced tonight called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. He says we're overprotecting our kids in the real world and underprotecting them in the online world. They need more risk and connection together, face-to-face, outside with other kids, and less risk and interaction online. I think we can and should do more to keep phones off and away at our schools, especially at the elementary and middle school levels. Thank you.
No, thank you. And last but not least, Ryan Norwood.
Oh, there we go. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight, and I'm very grateful for all the folks that have already spoken so eloquently about iPad and phone usage in the school, and I second all of those things. Just a couple of examples from my personal experience. My son, who's in 6th grade at Pacific Crest, he uses an iPad like everybody else, and I'll be honest, I didn't pay attention that much to it as far as just specifically how he learns on it until fairly recently and helping him with some math at home. And I was surprised how challenging it was, actually not surprised, but that he would sit there and use a screen that is slightly larger than an iPhone and try to do work off to the side, be responsible for taking photos and uploading that as proof of work, trying to organize multiple things on a desk. And it would have been much more efficient to have a book that you could turn back in different pages, look at lessons, write, and be more efficient. So just as an example, not of the internet, which I totally agree with everything that was said, but just from a learning perspective, that just seemed like a really not efficient way to do it. And then secondarily, as an example of the phones in schools, he doesn't have a phone, but I can tell you every day he sees one from his friend. They go in the bathroom, they watch YouTube videos. It's not lost on him that when we were kids, that's what you did if you wanted to smoke. And so that analogy, I think, is pretty obvious. And so it just seems that we've given these kids tools that we probably can't even control, let alone a 12-year-old. So just examples to further the comments tonight on why I think we really need to have more of a discussion immediately on how we're using these in the schools. Thanks.
Thank you. And I want to thank everyone for their public comments, and I appreciate it very much. And we will definitely take all those things in consideration and make sure they get to the appropriate people. Thank you. And now we will move on to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Are there any other requests to remove anything from the consent agenda or any items to be discussed? Okay. Since there are no requests for any changes, I will call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No, Director Olson, step away first. Take a second. We have a quorum, so we're fine. That's down now, I understand. Now that we said call up results, is that it voted unanimously to pass the motion, passes unanimously. Thank you all. We're doing a program. Same thing with the minutes as well. Yes, thank you. Cool. I will now turn it over to Dr. Cook for agenda item 8, consent for information.
Thank you, Chair LeGrand. In the consent for information agenda tonight, this evening, we have the annual reports on executive limitations 4.5, student transportation, and executive limitation 4.7 on information technology. We have one policy that is being deleted, policy DH-AR, bonded employees and officers. This regulation is no longer needed as the district's insurance policies now provide employee coverage and fidelity bonds. Additionally, the district is also adopting policy IGAC-AR, recognition of religious beliefs and customs. Revisions to this regulation provide guidance when recognizing religious customs or beliefs in our school settings. The changes reflect current district practices and processes. Language specific to employment has been removed as it is addressed in GBA-BP, Equal Employment Opportunity. No public feedback was received on this policy. In addition to soliciting public comment, both the Equity Coalition and district and school administrators reviewed this policy. I'm glad to answer any questions you might have.
So can I ask you a question about 8B? So it's our executive limitation around technology. Since, we had many members of the public come speak on this tonight, and I do feel personally as a parent and a board director that this is a conversation we definitely need to be engaging in more forcefully and really rethinking our use of technology, given that, with the pandemic, we gave iPads to every kid because we didn't have a choice. And we are now choosing to keep iPads in the hands of every child, particularly our youngest learners. And when we look at our EL around this, point number 6 is ensure that technology implementation is research-based and applies developmentally appropriate best practices to K-12 education. And I personally, frankly, don't feel that we currently are meeting this obligation. And so one of my questions for you, Dr. Cook, is as we look at using research and applying developmentally appropriate best practices, how much are you talking with psychologists and pediatricians and people who are really experts in the mental well-being of our children to know that we're using technology in an appropriate fashion in our schools?
Not as much as we probably could be, and I think that's an area for us to look at expanding in the future. I do think that there's an opportunity here. I think there's lots of research as we talk about the use of the tool on the effectiveness of teaching and learning on the tool, and I think that's a fair addition for us to consider as the outreach, if you will, of the executive limitation on what is the psychological impact of that, and I think that's a good thing for us to consider as we move forward.
Well, and one of my other kind of questions, not just psychological, but also on education, is when we look at a lot of our, test scores and data we've seen dropping test scores, worsening outcomes as we've employed more technology. And so I kind of want to see the data that tech has actually improved outcomes in our schools, because I don't know that we've been presented any data that it has. And we seem to be doubling down on our use of technology rather than thinking, where can we pull it back? And one of the things that I've seen as I've, been spending time in classrooms with teachers is I've been asking them. And I have yet to have a teacher tell me they think Lexi and Dreambox are great tools. I've heard from admin that they think they're great tools. I'm not hearing that from our educators, quite frankly. And, even my own child, I asked him this morning, what do you think? And he was like, well, Dreambox is stupid because you really just pick answers until it moves on, but it doesn't explain to you what you're doing wrong. So are they learning or are they pressing buttons? And that was what I heard from some kindergarten teachers and first grade teachers, that our youngest learners don't actually understand what they're doing. And so we give them a device. They spend, 10 to 20 minutes a day doing Dreambox. But is it actually improving their learning? And, what I've heard is that teachers use this data, but I've yet to talk to a teacher who's using the data. And so if it's time that's being taken away from, our precious minutes with kids in the class and is not improving outcomes, I really just want this to be work that is driven by those closest to it, which really is our classroom teachers. What is their experience? Do they think these have added benefit? And if they don't, then what are we doing to pull back? And I also feel like as parents, I don't want my kid on an iPad all day, but yet I don't have that choice sending them to school, right? because everything they do in class, so much of it is iPad driven. And we have more and more research, right? I sent you the article, I sent the whole board an article about the importance of handwriting, and our kids just aren't really learning to write that way anymore. And I think all of these things, our community is telling us we need to be paying attention. And so I really hope that, you know, maybe 6 months from now, we have a conversation about use of technology, how we're adapting it, what is best practice, and how is it actually affecting our kids.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can, I mean, I'm not sure what your question was, but I think generally there's a lot there, and I would not disagree that there's a level of conversation that we want to elevate into with this. And I think it is a good, we've done a lot of work in the past 15 months to look at how technology use is impacting our district. We aren't prepared yet to present that report, but I think that's coming up pretty soon.
So just the last comment from me. You know, like Pacific Crest piloting the program that blocks out everything other than what the teacher is doing at the time. I think like that is really powerful technology in our classrooms to prevent kids from flipping through, you know, other apps. So they're actually forced to pay attention. Is there any plan for that technology to be used in every classroom starting in September when kids come back?
Yeah, we're right now, we're still in the middle of that pilot. I think the product you're talking about is called Teacher Jamf, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and it is a product that allows for teachers to lock down access to other apps besides the one that they're teaching on. It's a newer tool, it's a newer product, and we're still in that pilot, so I think the data isn't in yet on whether or not we feel like it's meeting the expectations and the needs, but it's also an area of focus that we're very much interested in. So I think the question is, I mean, it's the right question. I think we're just not quite ready to answer that, but it's definitely on our radar for things to talk about as we start planning for 24-25.
Are there any additional questions? All right. Thank you, Dr. Kirk. And now we move into our report section. I will now return it over to Scott. Make sure I'm going to say this right, Scott. I'm going to try my best. Olszewski, Lapine High School principal in South County. And thank you, board clerk, for spelling it phonetically, so I make sure I got it correctly.
There we go. All right. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Scott Olszewski. I am principal at Lapine High School and South County Director for Ben Lapine Schools. I'm here to talk about an attendance area review team. We are looking at the boundaries for Roslyn and Lapine Elementary Schools, and we're looking at a change in the boundaries for each of those schools. So some context is that in the school year 2022-23, Roslyn was overcrowded. Going into this school year, 23-24, Roslyn was not overcrowded, but in the interest of stability and to prevent overcrowding in the future, we decided that we would take a look at the boundaries now and potentially make a change, which is why the team was put together. Lapine Elementary has capacity, so we had that in our favor. So that review team was put together. It was made up of parents from both elementary schools, teachers, classified support staff, the principals of both elementary schools, district administrators, and myself. So what our goal is to move anywhere between 50 and 80 students from the Roslyn attendance area into the Lapine Elementary attendance area. Okay, so somewhere within that range. And we took a look at the current boundaries and all the student numbers and went through that. Ultimately, over the series of meetings of our team, we came up with 3 different map options that could meet that goal. So we took those 3 map options and they were posted to our websites. They also went out to all of the families in Lapine, regardless of what school level they were at, and also were presented at parent conferences in April at Roslyn and Lapine Elementary, along with a QR code to give some feedback. So those of us that were on the team, we made sure to staff those conferences so that there would always be someone there to answer questions, Parents and community members came through, asked a lot of questions, and gave feedback. We had 70 respondents, which was a pretty good number to get some feedback on those 3 different options. Taking a look at the feedback and having some more conversation in another meeting after that, we made some tweaks to one of the 3 options that seemed to really respond to what we were hearing. And then we presented that one as well for another session of feedback on the website. We got 17 respondents to that one. And now we have taken that boundary map, which is the one that is up on the screen there. We are taking that to Dr. Cook as a recommended outcome of this attendance team. So this is the map that we're recommending. Part of the recommendation would also be that families of 4th graders at Roslyn Elementary could automatically get an area change. If they wanted an area change, they still have to provide their own transportation if they want to continue to attend Roslyn, but that would keep them there to finish out their elementary school at Roslyn. It also would apply to their siblings. So siblings of 4th graders, current 4th graders, would be automatically given an area change for 1 year to ease that transition. Thank you.
Thank you. Director, is there any questions?
Scott, one of the things we talked about earlier was not splitting neighborhoods. It's very difficult when kids on one side of the street go to one school and kids on the other side of the street go somewhere else. But you also, I know, and I noticed by this map, that you've taken into account the new building that's going on, because the new building in La Pine is significant and it will impact both schools, at least to some degree. What do you think?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. One of the things that was factored in when we made the tweak, how I talked about, there were 3 options. We took one of them and made a tweak. The main tweak on that was to keep some of the neighborhoods that are close to Roslyn still attending Roslyn.
Scott, I just want to jump into Director Olson. There's one place that appears to divide a neighborhood, and in talking to the principals down there and to Tammy Doty, our executive director, they really are fairly separate from each other. So while it appears like, oh, just a street divides them, they were talking about the configuration. I'm not familiar personally with the neighborhoods, but it was a common feeling that really wasn't, didn't represent a split neighborhood.
That's accurate. And being familiar with the area, I would echo that and also say that the respondents' feedback echoed that to a large degree as well.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
And now we will turn it over to Dean Richards, Director of Secondary Curriculum, Instructions, and Systems.
Waiting for the visuals up there. I get to bring a group together tonight to get to talk about something that's really passionate for me and for my colleagues. We're going to be talking about doing some math today and getting into our math practices. Specifically, we're going to be talking about Math 1. We're going to talk about a little bit what that means as we move through some changes from the state level and the way that we're putting those together. So I'm going to come back in a little bit, but I'm going to turn it over to Linda Adams first, who's our 612 math instructional coach, and then Amy Romero, math teacher from Mountain View, is going to take you through a little bit of practice so you can kind of see what it's like to do mathematics with this new curriculum that we're going to be talking about today.
Thanks, Dean. Yeah, so as Dean says, I'm going to share with you a little bit about what the work that the state has been doing, Oregon Department of Education, around mathematics, and then how that's influenced our adoption and the work we've been doing. And then Amy's going to give you, Amy is one of the most amazing math teachers we have, so she's going to do a little mini math lesson, and then Dean will follow up with our next steps. Which one's the forward there? Okay. I hope that's the right one. Oh, there we go. Oops, I think I went too far. Sorry. Okay. So these first three slides are Oregon Department of Education slides, and I think they're pretty powerful. This one shows the model of a sieve. A sieve sorts and it labels students. It represents those that perceive themselves as mathematicians and people that can do math and those that can't. And we all know that higher levels of mathematics means more opportunities. Unfortunately, this filtration process starts as early as 4th and 5th grade. And by high school, they pretty much know whether they're a math person or not. And the determining factor in elementary school is really about speed. Can I be the first person with my hand up with the right answer? And many students at that age really just need more experience and they need more practice thinking abstractly. The pump moves and lifts all students to be successful in critical problem solving. And it gives them opportunities to meet their post-secondary and career goals. Oh my gosh, I think I'm going, it's skipping slides. Sorry about that. Well, that's okay. Yeah, there is one more slide, but I'll just keep going. Anyway, these are the proposed pathways by ODE, which we are following. Math 1 is what we'll be talking about tonight, and that's all algebra. For Math 2, that is their second year in high school. There'll be a semester of geometry and a semester of data reasoning and statistics. And then there are +1 courses, the capstone courses, most of which will articulate college credit, are composed of 3 pathways. One is the typical calculus. So calculus and algebra are very small branches of a great big field of mathematics, and that's what we've been focused on. Students can still do that. They can get to calculus if they're going into engineering fields and those sorts. But there's also 2 other pathways that ODE has proposed. One is data reasoning, data science, which we know consumes a lot of our fields that students can go into today in some very high-paying fields. And then the third pathway is around quantitative reasoning, which could include business and financial math, math for industry. There's a math and society, which is made up of lots of different pieces of mathematics. Okay, there we go. So currently in the Ben Lapine School District, this shows the courses that we are offering. The calculus pathway will have some cleanup there because the state is looking at combining what we would call advanced algebra, pre-calculus, trig into one course, and then students can decide what kind of college credit. Do they want a pre-calculus credit? Do they want Math 111 and 112? And so that there will be more succinct offerings in that pathway. We did offer explorations in data science at Summit last year, and that will be continuing. We've got stats, and then for the quantitative offerings that we're exploring is financial algebra, discrete mathematics, an applied geometry course, math for industry, and I think Math 105, Math and Society, will be taught at all of our high schools next year. So these are articulated capstone courses. Oh my goodness, I am having, there we go. All right, so in terms of going and looking at what we needed to adopt for materials to cover this, we formed a team in 2021, and we made a list of considerations for the materials we were looking at. We definitely wanted to consider the district's vision and mission, thinking about how all of our students, what would work for all our students. We wanted some engaging tasks, supports for teachers and parents, students, and certainly math, language supports, and differentiation strategies. In our adoption process, we formed an adoption leadership team. To try to get on the same page, we read in the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, Catalyzing Change in High School Mathematics, and they have some really progressive thinking recommendations. We also had a couple teachers that reviewed the approved materials list with ODE. A couple of us worked on that, and then as a team, we went through those materials lists. Many of them were very traditional texts that they put new covers on, so we are already using traditional text. So we wanted to explore some other possibilities, and we had teachers who were using from a publisher that for their stats and their pre-calculus, so Stats Medic and Calculus Medic. So we decided to look at Math Medic, which is algebra-based course. And we had all of our Math 1 teachers had access to pilot, so they could pilot that this last year. And based on their feedback, we found that teachers liked the tasks. They thought they were engaging and students were interested in them, but they felt that they needed more practice materials and some other supports. So I want to tell you a little bit about the curriculum. The curriculum is developed by 3 teachers that were teachers of the year for high school, but could not find curriculum that they would want to use, so they created it. And it's called, they use what they call an EFL experience. So you experience the work first, and then the teacher formulates and so rather than get a lecture and practice problems, you get to dive into the work, and then you formulate your notes and your algorithms later. And Amy, like I said, Amy's going to give you a little taste of that. Yeah, and so they're going to need their worksheets.
And then how do I get the next slide?
I found that's the correct
The middle one?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to pick it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm super nervous because you guys are not my typical crowd. So, and I don't stand at a lectern, so it's really hard for me to stay in, like, I can. You guys, you're not gonna like, yeah, right. Yeah, I know. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. I actually have Liam in AP Stats, so you guys can quiz him later for the real deal. He's not in Math 1, but he's in AP Stats. So you can talk to him later. You having fun, Liam? Okay. Oh my gosh, you guys. Okay, here we go. So what did we eat for breakfast, you guys? I'm kind of thinking of you guys as my Math 1 class, all right? Liam, what did you eat for breakfast?
I don't eat breakfast. I'd rather sleep than eat breakfast.
Yeah, spoken like a true high schooler. Anyone eat bagels?
Every morning.
There you go. Okay, nice bagels. Okay. Well, there's a place called Panera. I don't know, we don't have one here. Like I said, I'm kind of tackling you guys like you're a class, right? So we don't have a Panera here, but they are known for their delicious bagels and a lot of other good food. So it looks like Peyton, Kelly, and Carter work together and take turns bringing food in from Panera for their department each Friday. So if you look at your paper, okay, there we go. Top here, number 1. So Peyton's Panera bread order is shown below. Okay, so remember, you guys, Panera is just a place, just like, what's the one down the road from us? Big O Bagel? Yep, Big O Bagel. Okay, so it's just, we don't have one in Bend, but it's just a restaurant that has bagels. What is a possible cost for a single bagel, and what is a possible cost for 1 tub of cream cheese? All right, so here's what we know. So I'm going to give you guys some private think time, and here's what we know. You know that they got Cinnamon Crunch Bagel. How many of those Cinnamon Crunch Bagels did we get? Hey, thank you. And how many tubs of cream cheese did we get? 2. All right, so I'd like some private think time, please, to get me some possible prices. Remember, we're not talking quantity, so we're talking prices of what a 1 bagel could cost and 1 tub of cream cheese. I'm going to give you not enough time, but because I know I'm on the clock.
but not the answers, right? Not the answers. No, not the answers yet. No. No, don't spoil it. All right, talk with a neighbor. I don't know everybody's name, so I'm sorry, but talk with a neighbor if I was in class. I know, but I have bad eyes and I can't see them. I have bad eyes, okay? And it's end of the day. It's end of the day. All right, talk with a neighbor. See if you have the price of a bagel and the price of a tub of cream cheese, please. Liam, you doing this? Oh, nice. I might cold call you. Yank me when you need to yank me, but I'm trying to. All right. So in full disclosure, if I was in my class, I'd run this a little differently, but I will ask for a volunteer. Does anyone have a price of bagel and price of cream cheese that totals with 8 and 2 of the quantity to $19.50? Right? I can't walk around and look at your papers and give you hints. So, Marcus, do you have a price of bagel and cream cheese, please?
What we have right now, with everything, we were thinking if we went 18 divided by, into 1950, we would get $2.44 or 43 cents for per bagel. We know the cream cheese is not going to be that expensive, so we took the 6 out, and then what we did is we said, okay, if we took that out, so what we decided to do is go, okay, the bagel's going to be about $1.68 per bagel.
Oh, okay. So what'd you get for a bagel cost? $1.68?
Yes.
$2.
And then what'd you get then? If a bagel costs $1.68, so if I spent $19.50 and I bought 8 bagels, and you're saying a bagel costs $1.68, what would a cream cheese cost?
$3.
$3. There we go. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, got it. I'm a visual learner and I can't look at your paper, so there we go.
Because we divided 6 from the
yeah.
1950 to say about 13.50 and then divided by 8 to get our cost for our bagels and our cream cheese.
Got it. Okay. 6. Perfect. Do we have another one? Is this the only combination?
What about $2 a bagel?
$2 a bagel. Okay. And if my 8 bagels cost $2 a bagel, how much is my cream cheese?
$1.75 a piece.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else?
$1.50 per bagel.
$1.50 a bagel.
It was the day-old cream cheese that Cameron bought.
It's a sale.
Yeah. Hey, it lasts forever. $1.50 a bagel, which means my cream cheese is what?
$3.75.
$3.75. Okay, so as you see, there are multiple solutions to this, all right? So here's the deal. I don't think we get to go in and just have multiple solutions and say, well, where's that cheap cream cheese we're talking about, right? I want to pay $1.75 for the fresh cream cheese. So here, sorry, I'm not used to, I don't teach with a slideshow. I am purposely skipping 2 and 3 because I know you guys did not sign up to go to math class right now. And then I'm jumping to what is 4, which is at the bottom of your paper, which would kind of be the crux of the lesson, the big idea, which would be obviously on the board before we even got started. So there's number 4. So do your best to ignore 2 and 3. I know that's hard for some people. But when it was Carter's turn, Liam, what'd you get for a bagel?
I took the easy way out and said each bagel was $1. So I did $19.50 minus 8, and I got $6.25 per cream cheese.
For one tub?
Yeah, for 1 tub.
Okay. Thanks, Liam. I told you I was going to call on you, so I had to make sure I call on you. Okay. Okay, here we are, number 4. When it was Carter's turn to bring food, he ordered more bagels than Peyton and double the amount of cream cheese. His order is shown. And so that is one thing. You'll notice the pictures. In my class, I co-teach with a special ed teacher, and I also have a handful of newcomers. from Chelsea's program. So the pictures are very helpful so that, we know what we're talking about. It's also an easy way to cue kids. Part A, you guys, should Carter's subtotal be exactly double? I want you to think in your head. Think in your head. Don't blurt out, please. Think in your head. Talking like my Math 1 kids here. All right, what do you think? Should it be exactly, so should Carter's total be exactly double of Peyton's? And this is, I'm in groups of 4. This is where I might see, say, person who got up earlier, person with the longest hair, person with the shortest hair. Who have I not heard from? There you go. Laura, what do you think? Is it double? And your suspicion is right. Thank you. It is not exactly double. It is not exactly. No, yes, but you have access because we are talking about double and hopefully a little bit intuitive. We're not living in the numbers quite yet. So I appreciate that. So if we're going to part B, Carter's subtotal was 3453. Okay, so we know Peyton's, right, you guys? We know what Carter bought. I'm going to give you some private think time again. If you need to lean over with a neighbor, please do. The goal of this on number 4, 4B, is I want to know what a price of one bagel actually is, given what we know. And I'm going to stand here awkwardly and not walk around and monitor. Okay. Okay, if Janet gives me the okay. All right, what do we think?
Is we looked at the
Okay, all right. How about you guys? Okay. Say that again. Got it. Okay, there's one way. And are you with 150 and 375? Okay. How about you, Liam? Did you figure out cost of a bagel given the bottom here? Okay, that's good. Okay, so this is where, depending on the level and depending on the class, I would probably say, this is a lot of work, right? Like the great thing about Mathematic is it's going to give some access. We're not going right to numbers and we're not doing this, but we have we need to land on an answer because I got to order some bagels and I have a budget and I need to land on an answer. So so this is where I'm going to kind of stop being a teacher for a second, and I'm going to kind of be transparent about what I'm doing. So Janet, if we can pass out the answer sheet, and if you guys can notice the lines Linda wrote up there, we would kind of get to the crux of the lesson. So this is obviously abbreviated and so if you look on number 4, right? So if I was in my class, I try to get students there. I might have some, I might do a, there you go. You can tell I'm used to these things. So if I was, oh goodness, you can tell I speak all day loudly. If I was in class, I'd be delivering this a little bit different. But remember, you guys, we still need to land on a price. Like the whole goal at the end of the day is to figure out how much we are paying for a bagel. So we had our first equation where we knew we spent $19.50. You'll see that graphed in red. And what we did on that table was we did a lot of solutions. So those were all points in red. But we had our friend Carter, who went to the same bagel shop, Panera, and also bought bagels. And you'll see Carter's equation in blue right there. Okay, you'll notice 13x is for the bagels, 4y, 34.53, I think that says. All right. Hey, how many 2 lines can cross at one point? Right? 2 lines can lie on top of itself, 2 lines can be parallel. Kids would already know that, hopefully, at this point, or we would review it, which is where I'm getting. So there's only one price. So I want you to kind of look at your thinking. Once again, this is not the way I deliver that with my students, but you guys were close, $1.50. You were close, okay? But there's going to be one point, one Costa bagel and cream cheese that's going to make both equations true. All right. So okay. All right, I'm almost done, I promise. So that is the front of that. And if you will notice, and you flip over on the back, I think it's two-sided, you will notice, nope. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, awesome. You can tell I teach with technology. Okay, on the top of the back of your notes, you'll see some quick notes. This is where we formalize what we are doing. So this is the big takeaways, right? So hopefully at the beginning of the class, we've said what we plan to do. Awesome, thank you. We plan what we're going to do, and then hopefully at the end of the class, we're going to say that we did it, right? So teachers have different ways of getting notes, but you'll see on the top there with system consistent, you'll see your independent one solution, right? So when we go into Big O Bagels, Panera Bagels, whatever, there's only one price for a bagel. It's $1.75 at Big O Bagels, by the way. I checked, okay. And then you'll see some problems underneath. Those are check your understanding. And in my class, I usually choose, where's the most bang for my buck and where to go for there. All right, you can tell I don't do this very often. Can you just edit my stuff? Oh, okay. So it really depends on how classes go, how much time you're gonna spend, right? I've done some of these lessons where they've went much faster than I thought, and they've taken some lessons where I've had to make them into 2 days. We just did a lesson in my math one with quadratics that was some math I've never done. I've been teaching for 24 years in this district, and I have never done this formula. So it's super cool. So there's stuff that we have done, but yeah, I don't know what more I can add. I think I'm just talking to talk. So do you guys have any questions? If you ever want to come observe, just let me know.
Directors, do you have any questions at all?
And then Dean's following.
Okay, yeah, so I was saying, do you have any questions?
Questions about like the teaching or anything like that? We have a Canvas module being made. We have some PD that we're thinking about, so we've got teacher rollout that we're working on. Sorry, Dean, stealing your thunder.
You're never stealing my thunder. Amy and I are birthday twins. Should put that into the record. So as we move to these next pieces, make sure that I'm doing the same. We're going to talk a little bit about the rollout with Mathematic that we bring to you today to look at this for our Math 1. So the goal is to be able to, over the summer, have teachers come together, and we have teachers who've volunteered to do this work, to come together to create a Canvas course that for Math 1 that will be created over the summer. So they're teachers who have been piloting or field testing this curriculum, so they have good knowledge of the needs of students and how that compares to what the curriculum is currently delivering. So it's going to provide a really strong base for our teachers next year who are teaching Math 1. Any curriculum that we have, and as we looked at those curricula that were brought forward by the state, none of them really fit. And I think that any teacher is going to want to have that space to create and make the curriculum their own. So we want to be able to provide enough that here's the structures, here's some scope and sequence, here's some tasks, and some place where there'll be additional resources where they could pull those to be able to differentiate for students, to be able to extend for students. All of those will be built into this Canvas course. And the nice thing about the Canvas course that has Mathematic Living within it is that we can, when somebody here's this great project that I did, we can add that to the Canvas course and have it across our whole system for all of our teachers. So we'll build in those extra resources, the extensions, the accelerations. Mathematics is available in Spanish, originally written in Spanish, not a technological translation around that. So we'll build in for our multilingual learners, build in the SIOP instructional strategies to help them have that content be more comprehensible for them. And then we'll also include, as I said, those practice materials along with instructional videos for students who may be absent and be able to have some other access to that as well. So this is, to jump onto the part that Linda already shared, the 2+1 rollout is going to take us multiple years because this year's current freshmen have had they haven't had this math experience, so we can't jump into Math 2. So we're gonna have in 24-25, the only part that's really gonna look different is that Math 1 for 9th graders. And the shift, and as Linda showed on the 2+1 slide, that it'll just be algebra standards to start. So that's the way that we have landed. Sometimes there are, and then we have some schools who are doing more of an integrated approach where they're bringing geometry into the algebra, and we're gonna separate that out for here's the geometry year, and then in 25-26, we'll make that move to the state has a semester of geometry standards and a semester of data reasoning standards. So that will be a change coming along the way. So and we'll be working on early in the fall to look at curricula for that next. And Mathematic has some pieces that we may look at for that as well. So we want to kind of keep the instructional practices similar for students as they move through. So, and again, we will have, it'll be that same practice of being able to give Canvas courses to teachers so that we have this a live document that can help move them forward. So, and then 26-27 will be that final year of the rollout. And we have many of these +1 courses in place, but we will want to be generating some of those, particularly around the data science, having those be a lot richer. There's a lot of work going on across the state. There's not a day I don't get an email within a math chain of math teachers and how they're developing that work. A lot of our ESDs are working on this through state grants. So this it feels like, oh my gosh, here's this thing we don't have, and there's a lot of really smart folks working on that across the state, which is great. That's not currently the practice, or the big publishing companies are working to catch up. So we're gonna have to, Oregon made this bold move, and then we're gonna be working to get there. So multi-year rollout. So the bold are the things that are changing those particular years, and the italics are the things that will stay the same from the previous year. So, so by 26-27, we'll have this whole process rolled out. So last slide, we will be working on Math 2 and mention those, looking at some of those and building those +1 course options. And again, building on, we have some really robust classrooms happening. AP Stats is one of the most popular of those across their district. But there's lots of other ones, and really can help kids see how math is everywhere in our lives. We are going to have a training plan, so we will be working with, many of our high schools have been doing Math Studio for a long time, where teachers have a sub day, they come together, they work on a problem of practice, they teach in each other's rooms, they watch each other teach, they give each other feedback. Really powerful way for professional development that is right there in the classroom with their colleagues. And we're going to continue that and being able to bring some of that focus to those instructional moves across all of our high schools, and have people, we might have one, it's like, well, what does it mean to, I'm giving just some examples, to EFL a lesson, right? How do we take like many folks are not used to that type of instructional practice. So, okay, well, what's this look like? Let's watch each other teach. We might have one on how we're gonna reach our multilingual students. We may have one on how we're gonna do extensions for students. So we'll build those, in the beginning of the year, next year, we'll have our trainings for all Math 1 and likely all Math 2 teachers, just so that they know what's coming from Math 1. To be able to see here's the curricula, and those are always just sort of like, let's figure this out. Sometimes those first trainings aren't really deep practice, and that's why we want to continue the Math Studios, where teachers are teaching it, watching each other, giving feedback, and building that professional development. And we'll continue that practice as it's been going on for a while. And there will be a few middle school teachers because we do have a few middle schools who are offering Math 1 as well for students who've bypassed a grade. The other piece that we'll be looking for, and it'll be on our website tomorrow, is looking for community input on Mathematic. So there will be on the scrolling pages, thanks to Becca Berta, who's got that together for us. So it'll be live for community members to jump in, be able to go to the Mathematic site. Most of the lessons are available on their site. What's not available are the assessments and the homework. But people will get a really good sense of what Mathematic is like as a learner. So we're really looking forward to bringing you that feedback when we come back next time around that. If there are folks who would like to see that, see it in person and look at some of those other pieces, then Linda and I will be available for in-person connections on that as well. So we really hope that people will take a look and sign in to connect with us. So we're hoping that we can come back in June and have formal board approval for Mathematic as part of this course that will be built into Canvas. So now, any questions? And the really tough math ones are going to go to these two because they're really brilliant in that.
I have just a quick question about logistics, because as you said, some of our schools in 8th grade teach 9th grade math in person, but not all of our middle schools do. So for those students who are at a middle school that does not teach 9th grade math in person, but those students are taking 9th grade math, is this going to be available online so there'll be no gaps in access?
Yeah, we're working on a plan for those schools where essentially what happens is the number of 8th graders who need Math 1 is small enough that say like 6 students, and so they don't necessarily run a course. So we're working on having a synchronous class taught by a Ben Lapine teacher using this Canvas course for students across across a few schools. So that plan's in motion, and right now we're working on that bypass process as far as like going into and having kids take those assessments, so we know the numbers a little bit better of like who's going to be ready. Yeah, we have a plan for that. It will be this curriculum taught by one of our teachers.
Are there any additional questions?
No stress.
Problem solving is fine.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Growth mindset. Get it. Any additional questions? Well, thank you all for your time. I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you. Thank you for the report. And now we're moving on to our action items. The High Desert Educational Service District Board of Directors is a 9-member board, of which 5 seats are elected by a school district. Peggy Kincaid has represented Ben Lapine Schools on the High Desert ESD board since 2019 and chose not to run for re-election. Kincaid currently term runs out June 30th, 2024. The High Desert ESD advertised an elected board position with a request for application will be filled with the High Desert ESD by April 19, 2024, as that is passed. Only one application is received, and it was provided to our board to review. The board can choose to elect the individual that applied, or they can nominate an individual of their choosing from the application. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion.
I move to elect Mary Paulson to serve on Ben Lapine Schools District Representative on the High Desert Education Service Board of Directors.
I second.
I will now call for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, directors. The board is met earlier today or this evening, and this time I would like to entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. I will clarify what happened exactly. What we're doing is we actually had an executive session today to discuss for more information on a particular thing that we were looking at. So within the district, so we were making the motion to be able to look for further information to be able to continue to figure out exactly what was going on. So that's what the motion's for.
I make a motion that the board will review the record on the complaints that were discussed in the executive session today, May 14th, 2024. The board would delegate this review to 2 board members, Amy Tatum and Cameron Fisher, who will provide a recommended decision to the board after their review.
Thank you, Director Chatham. Now, thank you, and I have a motion.
I second.
Thank you. I'll now call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passed unanimously. Thank you, directors. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Good to present the administrative policies and regulations the district is reviewing.
Thank you, Chair LeGrand. As you all know, the part of the administrative policy and regulation review process, we bring policies that the district is considering for public feedback in front of the board. We have several of those today. The first one is IBAP, freedom of expression. We have rewritten this policy to capture the most current processes and procedures in place surrounding a student's freedom of expression. House Bill 3041, which was passed in 2021, revised the statutory definition of sexual orientation and created a new definition for gender identity, which are now included in this policy. It has also been renamed from an administrative regulation to an administrative policy. Our second one is IKE-AP, promotion and retention of students. It includes updates to reflect current district practices, and it is a philosophical approach to student retention and/or promotion that we would be providing throughout the district. IKE-AR is the regulation that accompanies that policy, retention and double promotion, which includes updates to reflect these current district practices and processes for how we would identify and determine if a student should be retained at their current grade level or promoted to the next grade level. Additional information on these policies and feedback processes will be available on the webpage of the district, as it's specifically noted in our policy page. Glad to answer any questions.
Director, is there any questions at this time? All right, thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Cook. And we will hear from Dr. Cook in the superintendent's report.
Quick superintendent's report tonight. I just have 4 quick things to update. I just want to talk about the task force for a second. We had a meeting about 10 days ago, I believe, last week, in which our focus for this group was getting dialed in on a student handbook. And there's specific interventions that would be called out more consistently in the handbook that would give us a focal point, a lot of conversation in the task force on how both the interventions for when a student violates some type of rule would be administered across all of our schools. Additionally, feedback in the groups was that there seemed to be a desire to have not only the interventions, but also determining the varying levels that you could have as an infraction as it would exist and how that's going to be. And so that's work that the committee is continuing to work on. I think they're going to meet again in a week or so. 29th, I feel like, is a date that pops into my head for that group to kind of circle back. And the intent is to have this agreed upon and presented and then in place for next fall. And we feel like the work of this task force has really done a nice job of bringing this into focus and creating kind of this systemic approach that feels like it's going to be the anchor for all of our schools across the district. While it tends to be more of a point of consideration for middle schools and high schools, it has a K-12 impact. The second thing is just, we've got our strategic planning core team continues to meet. I just want to welcome, we have 2 new members. We have Carrie Douglas and Keena Chadwick have joined us representing the board on the planning team. And we had our first meeting with new membership last week. And so looking forward to continuing that work. Levy presentations, my third item, just wanted to make sure everybody's aware we've done quite a few levy presentations across the district, lots of questions, lots of intrigue, and lots of people interested in, I would say, common themes are the priorities of the district and how we intend to allocate these dollars, mechanisms for tracking that allocation so that as the years progress, if this were to pass, that there's a very transparent view of how those dollars would be allocated. And those have been prevalent across all of the presentations, and I'm excited about our ability to show and demonstrate how we would be doing that in a very public and transparent manner. And then the fourth item is just an update that there's getting to be some energy across the state of Oregon from quite a few districts and superintendents and school boards for that matter on as we start to think about our legislative session that will start next spring. And I just want you to know that we're very much involved. There's several of us that have an opportunity to meet with the governor in a couple of weeks to circle back to that meeting that happened last November. And those conversations are happening about what are more or less the 2 things that are of interest are the formula structure itself, whether or not the formula is promoting an adequate level of funding across all districts across the state, and whether or not there is agreement on what it is the basic cost right now when districts say there's a discrepancy between what we believe costs are as we go from biennia to biennia and what the state believes the costs are. And so they're actually listening to some of the dialogue that we're having, and I'm excited about having that opportunity to have audience. And so those are the 4 items that I'd like to make sure you're aware of, and glad to answer any questions on those as well.
Can I ask you a question not on any of those topics? And I say this because if it's something that you're like, wow, I don't know that I can answer that, that's totally fine. But it's something I've been thinking about, and something that some of our public commenters kind of mentioned tonight, and it's like theater funding and arts funding, because we're hearing a lot of fears in the community about those programs being cut. And, to me as a kid who I was always friends with the theater, I'm going to call them nerds, but I say that with affection. My best friend's a theater professor at Boston College, so I think I can say that. Those programs are so unique in that they provide such an outlet for kids who otherwise might not find their home, the same way that sports find an outlet for kids who otherwise might not have a home in our schools. And so when we hear about, programs, we're going to cut, the classes so the teacher won't be full-time. My question for you is that a district level decision or is that a building level decision? And can you talk about the difference in athletics funding versus arts funding? And if there's cuts to one, will there be cuts to both? And if not, why? Sorry, I know that was a big question.
Yeah, I think I can get there mostly. I think I can. So cuts and additions that are built on student enrollment oftentimes get conflated in when we talk about budget cuts. And so part of what I would say is, first of all, we're making a 3% reduction. We just passed that budget earlier today, and that was necessary to step into this new budget process, hence the reason we're talking with state leaders about our conditions. At every one of our high schools, at every one of our schools, the funding and the staffing models are built so that the most high priority needs are being met. And so at the high school level specifically, because I think is where most of this conversation is taking place about the performing arts, those schedules are built on the needs and asks of students. And so when oftentimes we have people questioning why a position might be reduced by a one class period or two class periods. In those particular cases, when you're talking about electives and courses that are built based on student demand, not required courses, but classes that are optional, if classes don't meet a minimum threshold, then we don't make it. And if there are course offerings, and I taught upper level science classes, for example, none of which were required classes. They had to have 2 years of science back in the days when I taught, and I taught what would have been like junior and senior classes. And so if the number of students interested in those classes went down, we reduced the number of sections that were offered. And so that's what we have in this case right now, are situations where what we're actually working hard to sustain isn't necessarily making another section if the demand's not there. But one of the things that was very clear when we met with the groups, the performing kind of the community theater arts and fine arts groups that were interested in the levy conversation, was the impact of COVID and shutting down our schools had on the performing arts, which need that repetitive kinds of face-to-face attention, and this kind of plea to commit to what are the commitments that we're willing to do to sustain performing arts across the district. And we've done a lot of those things by allocating additional FTE, even if it doesn't necessarily meet the expectations. And so we are committed to the performing arts, and I think that meeting was about 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. And we are allocating more than the allocated amount to support and sustain those positions across the district so that we don't lose those programming, because it's not based upon a district decision right now, it's based on student demand. And I think as we start to talk about things like athletics and clubs and other things that kids, that might meet their passions, oftentimes I think what are getting compared with things like sports, those are oftentimes being supplemented by outside dollars that aren't district allocations either. And so we truly value a whole child experience, a whole student experience across all of our schools, K through 12. And so we do our very best to maximize every dollar that goes out. And sometimes there are times, and this is a good example, where the demand isn't there. And so when those schedules get built, it does change the FTE of the way the teacher experiences that.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Cook. Appreciate it very much. And now we'll open the floor up for our board comments. Director Olson.
I'd just like to call out that we have the Excellence in Education Awards tomorrow night. It's a big deal. It's about 75 folks that we recognize, so that's going to be fun. Also, just to comment that there are more activities and scheduled meetings and whatever else you want to, celebrations in the next month. So just know that, we're all trying to do what we can do to support those specific things. And one of the other ones that's come to my attention is the South County celebration. So all the South County schools get together on Wednesday, the 22nd, early release day. And they meet together, I don't even know where, forgot, maybe at the football field, I don't know. Anyway, they have games, they have contests. Each school gets points for certain things. And the biggest school, in terms of number of staff, doesn't usually win. So it's very fun. And that's that afternoon to 2:30.
I just want to give a shout out for Liam for being here. Thank you, and giving your insights, and the rest of the Student Voice Council. And I look forward to dropping by their celebration. I think it's next week. And then also just the the plug here. We're on our last week for the levy. I've been canvassing, I've been delivering signs, I've been handing out buttons, I've been attending schools to talk about it and share my passion to make this happen. And so please continue to spread the word because people wait till the last minute and we really, really need as much support as we can. So thank you.
I'm going to read something that I prepared because what I'm about to share was a very tender moment. And I got to witness how much heart is put into a lot of hard work behind the scenes. I'd like to give a shout out to Liz Vargas, our lead family liaison, along with the team who ensures that everything is set up for our newcomers. I have the opportunity to attend an enrollment session for a couple of newcomers with Liz, and I could feel the family's sense of apprehension and excitement as they entered the room, as Liz warmly welcomed them in their native language. I could see their bodies go from being bristled to comfortable instantly. The students then began playing with a tub of toys and began drawing. As Liz guided the family through the enrollment paperwork and confirmed their enrollment in our dual immersion program, the room fell silent at one point. Some really difficult things about how this family arrived in Bend came up. And I hear all the time how resilient young people are. And frankly, this really gets on my nerves because I feel like kids should not have to be resilient. They should be enjoying life and playing and making connections with each other. I then attended a follow-up meeting with Katie Carrillo, Israel Tico, Maria Vidas, and Liza Hewitt. And let me tell you something, the space that this crew holds for newcomers is vast and beautiful, from transportation planning, deciding who's going to meet students on their first day of school, to buddying them up with a fellow student to show them around. This team has it dialed in. And for those of you who know me, I'm not a quote person. I'm an East Coast person. But for whatever reason, this quote that I came across a few years back popped up for me today, and it spoke volumes to what I witnessed from this team. I want to be remembered for my kindness, for showing up, for giving second chances, for loving selflessly. If that ain't it, then I've failed horribly. Remember to extend grace, because we're all just walking each other home. So thank you, Liz, Katie, Israel, Maria, and Liza, for all the very, very hard and tender work that you do.
Yeah, I'm not going to follow that as eloquently. I just want to say another plug for the levy. A couple weeks ago, I sat with a kindergarten teacher, and she was near tears as we were talking about her experience in our schools. And she said, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and every year it has gotten harder. We've had fewer resources, fewer people in our buildings, and kids coming in with bigger and bigger needs. And I am terrified of how bad things are going to get if the levy doesn't pass. And I shared that with a constituent a couple weeks ago who is rightfully not happy with a lot of the things that their child has experienced in our schools, a lot of them around technology and being exposed to pornography and various things in our school settings. And I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong. Like, we have work to do. But if you say you're not going to vote for the levy because you're upset about things that have happened in the past, you are literally kneecapping us so we can't move forward and do better work in the future. And what you are upset about are things that I will apologize to you for, because you should not have experienced those. But if you're not going to vote for the levy because you are upset about the past, you are harming the present. You are harming our kids. You are harming our educators. And that is obviously not the intent. So I just hope as people think about it and think about voting that you do vote yes, because quite literally our teachers and our kids need it. We need it to continue to do this good work and for the work to continue, which I think is the goal of everyone in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, directors. I appreciate it very much. And finally, I would like to say this. I really appreciate everyone with the public comment, but I really appreciate not just the parents, but the district as well, our central office as well, and all the commitment to try to definitely work with not just the community, but work with the teachers, work with administrators, continue to tackle the many things that we have. Remember, this is all of our collective work to do together. And just to piggyback on what Cameron and what Director Tatum are saying, this is all our responsibility as a community to try to make this happen. It's our responsibility to continue to be a part of the solution and try to find ways to continue to educate our students. We all know we need to make changes, and this is an opportunity for us to continue to do that, not only with the levy piece, but at the same time, just coming together as a community to make this happen. This is our community. We build what we want. We have to make a cultural change what we know is going to be necessary for us to be able to thrive and do the necessary things that we want to see our kids have and our grandkids have, so forth and so on. Again, I want to thank everybody for their commitments to being here. Thank you for all your hard work, and thank you for another successful meeting. Our next meeting is work session, which will be May 28th, and our next regular business meeting is going to be June 18th. Thank you all, and please drive home safely. And I'd like to say this meeting is adjourned.